Hello YouTube friends, I hope that you had a fantastic October, which is personally my favorite month because it's basically a whole month of Halloween. Not just October 31st, the whole month is Halloween. Plus, now there's this little thing in the art community called Inktober. If you somehow do not know what Inktober is, it is a challenge that was started by illustrator Jake Parker to do an ink drawing every day for the month of October. And now, over the years, it has morphed into a huge drawing/painting event that many artists participate in. I myself have taken part in Inktober for the past 4 years, and it has been quite the journey. My first year, I had completed about 12 illustrations that were of various characters from TV shows and movies, such as Raven from Teen Titans. I did Luna Lovegood from Harry Potter. It was more casual. I just sort of did whatever characters came to mind, sometimes kind of on theme with October. And in my second year, that's when my Instagram following began to grow, and that's when I kind of had my sight set on doing the entire month. And that was when I did my Alphabetic Witches series, which was inspired by another artist on Instagram who goes by Lana J Art. Then for last year's theme, I had created a prompt list titled Mythical Beings, where I illustrated various monsters and creatures from mythology. They were generally of like a humanoid variation, so like a gorgon, a harpy, mummy, vampire, those kinds of things. And I had a lot of fun with it. Stressful, but a lot of fun. For this year's theme, I created a prompt list titled Living Fantasy, which draws inspiration from, you guessed it, the fantasy genre. My reasoning for this theme initially came from my obsession with the Met Gala's theme from a few years ago titled Heavenly Bodies. I found the fashion from this particular year really inspiring, and there was this challenge going around that was hashtag Metsona, I believe, and basically people were illustrating hypothetically what they would have worn for that theme. And when I was doing my own version, I thought, I have so many different ideas for this costume, I need an excuse to do this kind of fashion illustration more often. And that's where this Inktober prompt list came from. It allowed me to create interesting characters with great fashion moments, and because I chose the fantasy route specifically, I didn't have to feel tied down by being historically accurate in any way. And that allowed me to, draw a samurai with fishnets. I couldn't have done that otherwise, I feel like. Alongside that, I also really wanted to do more background heavy pieces because that's something that I don't do very often, and I thought it would be a really good challenge. The piece that you're watching me work on here was for the prompt The Jester, which was basically an excuse for me to draw a melancholy but fashion-forward clown. Because for whatever reason, I'm really into that right now. I had created a list of 31 prompts, but ultimately I ended up completing 20. I was initially hoping to complete 26 like I had in previous years, thinking that I would skip one day each week of October. But partway through the month, I just had to accept that quality over quantity was more important. Because I felt like I'd rather spend more time creating a piece that I was proud of as opposed to just pushing something out really quickly and not being happy with it. Like I had mentioned earlier, Inktober has gone really big, and everyone takes on the challenge a little differently. For some, they just want to create something every day, and for me, I really wanted to create a collection of pieces that I was really happy with so that I could make a zine and make prints from them, which I had done in previous years as well. Over on Instagram, I had asked my followers what kinds of topics they thought I should talk about in today's video, and a lot of suggestions were more or less seeking advice on how to survive this crazy thing called Inktober. And since for many artists it ends up being a great source of stress, myself included, I thought that I would kind of give a rundown of the types of things that I think would help for you if you choose to do the challenge next year, and kind of a reminder for myself as well, because I didn't follow all these things necessarily. Tip number 1 to survive Inktober. Evaluate what goals you have and what you want to achieve by participating in this event. Do you want to practice your inking skills? Do you want to get in a better habit of drawing every day? Or, I don't know, are you a masochist like me and want to create a collection of fully rendered illustrations, thus pushing yourself to your utmost limits? I'm fine, I promise. So, to relieve yourself from some of the challenges you'll inevitably face during the month, it's not a bad idea to do some preparation leading up to October 1st. Some people like to jump right in, but since I am a little bit more elaborate on my approach, I knew I wanted to help out my future self as much as I could. To start, I think it's incredibly useful to have a list or theme to follow so that you can spend as much of your precious time creating rather than racking your brain deciding on what to draw. Some illustrators will also begin early, some will prepare their sketches beforehand, and so on. I had tried to get a head start, but only managed to finish about 2.5 pieces before October started. However, during the month of September, I also gave my prompt some thought and had saved some photo references for inspiration on my Instagram and Pinterest. That way I'd have some ideas to launch from when I actually sat down to start drawing and painting. One of my goals for Inktober was that I wanted to have them feel cohesive. Originally, to do that, I intended all of the illustrations to have a solid black background, but that didn't end up happening, and that's totally okay. I think the takeaway from this is it's more important to do what's best for each individual illustration rather than to obsess over making them all feel harmonious. You should allow yourself to be flexible where need be. That being said, at the beginning, I do think it is helpful to give yourself some kind of visual direction so that you're not overwhelmed by too many possibilities. Trying to narrow or limit your options can help streamline your workflow, whether it be to work just in black and white, just to use fine liners, whatever you feel is comfortable for you, or what kinds of challenges you're trying to put yourself in for the month. Now, the big question that I got on Instagram, and I'm sure you're wondering, is how to stay motivated. A common thing that happens with artists during this event is we hit the ground running. For the first week or so, we're all hyped and excited, and then somewhere down the road, you begin to lose momentum, and then you just totally burn out. For me, my biggest motivator was wanting to achieve my goal that I had set out. I had my eye on the prize, very Slytherin of me, which was to create a collection of pieces that I could put together in an art book. And I knew if I didn't create enough pieces, then I wouldn't be able to justify a booklet. And obviously that is much easier said than done, but to stay on task, I think it makes a huge difference to choose a theme that you really, really enjoy, but is not so specific that you feel limited or get bored with it. Like I had mentioned before, if you find yourself straying away from your original intent or direction, just run with whatever inspires you. Ultimately, I think it's better that you draw something that you enjoyed making rather than boxing yourself into a strict vision that could stunt your creativity. Because I think ultimately with Inktober, if you find yourself being bored of whatever you originally had intended for, then what's the point? Of course, there will come a time where you don't feel creative or inspired at all. There will also be illustrations that you create that you're unhappy with. And these things definitely happen to me. If you feel totally burnt out, just realize it's okay to take a break. Just take a break so you can recharge, which was really hard for me. I had put so much pressure on myself to the point where I was getting mad at myself for being hungry and needing to eat, because I was like, oh, it takes time away from me painting. And looking back, I'm like, that's a really unhealthy mindset to be in. And I'm sure many of you are guilty of this as well. So my advice on dealing with the stress of this challenge is, when you're starting to feel this way, just take a step back and do whatever it is that inspires you or calms you that isn't necessarily painting or drawing. Whether it be watching your favorite movies, going to a museum, riding your bike, like whatever it is, live your life. You know, we're human, it's fine. If you're feeling recharged after that, then you can go back to making more art. And the last thing you want from this challenge is to create a toxic relationship with you and your art and your craft, because you ultimately want to be creating and having fun, right? So yeah, Inktober can end in a couple of ways. Some people get back on that horse and finish the rest of the month. Some people give up, and some people pick it back up in November. At the end of the day, whether you made 3 illustrations or you did all 31, give yourself a pat on the back. Be proud of whatever you made. Inktober sometimes feels really competitive and daunting, when at its core, it should just be about improving yourself as an artist. And if you made any effort at all to make something, then I would consider that a win. If you didn't end up completing what you had set out to do, just know that there's still 11 other months out of the year. It doesn't all have to happen in October. And there's always next year. So don't beat yourself up for something that you didn't achieve or whatever you didn't do. Just make it a learning experience that you can apply for your future projects. Anyways, thank you for coming to my Inktober TED Talk. Feel free to take on whatever advice that seems suitable for you. Everyone has their own approach to this experience. And huge shout out to everyone who commented and supported my Inktober journey on Instagram this year. I have the originals, prints, and now the zine are all available on my online shop. The link will be listed in the description box below. And extra thank you to those who have already purchased. I still can never ever get over the fact that people put their money into my work. So thank you so much. And lastly, thank you for watching this video. I hope to see you next time. Bye.